Well, hey everybody, welcome to the channel. It has been a while since I have done one of these, and I am excited to be back a little bit. So, find myself at Arc L1, Wide Forest Station, and I thought we would just go do a very simple Prospector mining run. As you can see here, I've got the Atlas drive. I'm going to go ahead and go with an FLTRXL and a couple of Brants. That's my favorite kind of setup, really, and nothing real crazy there. The terminals looked a little funny there, so I thought I'd sneak over to this one. And we'll go ahead and pull out the Prospector. We're going to just head over to the Iron Halo. It has been a very long 6 or 8 weeks. For those of you who watch the channel, I should mention that there was a significant event in my life, that a very sad event. I don't say this to necessarily curry any favor. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood exactly why the channel had been so quiet. And that is because my mom passed recently. She was fighting cancer. The right thing to do was to kind of circle the wagons around the family, be with the family as much as possible, and really try and take care of my mom and take care of my dad as best as I could. Very blessed in life to have made it to 50 years old and still have my parents, so that's not lost on me. And my mom was an absolute wonderful lady. Like I said, I'm not saying this to elicit any sadness. I just wanted to kind of let everybody know that's kind of what I was up against in life, and that's exactly why the channel went so quiet. And we're going to now, turn the corner, honor mom's wishes, which is get on with our lives, and kind of move forward. So you find you find me here in the hangar. I'm selecting HURL5, and we are going to drop out somewhere around 7.8, 7.7 on the way there. You can see that I've done a little post editing, a little pre and post, as I've been kind of looking at the different mining components that I have, double checking that they're all there. We go ahead and lift up off the pad here, yank the gear back, and off we go. So out we go into the beautiful black of Star Citizen, and then we're going to go ahead and line up on HURL3. Pardon me, HURL5, and we are going to spin up the old quantum drive, spool it up, and off we go. And once again, 7.8, 7.7, that's where we're going to drop out. So a little bit of a quantum ride over. Just the TLDR is, we don't find the greatest rock over this way. I think it's like a 25, 26 SCU rock. I did find one almost a unicorn right before this run. So last night I was able to play for, I don't know, roughly half hour, 45 minutes, maybe a little over an hour, and I managed to put about 50 SCU in the hopper. So it was really nice to just kind of get back to the very basics of what I enjoy in Star Citizen, which is mining. Star Citizen has really kind of had an interesting turn of events here. 316 was so solid. And it's funny, Zell and I talk about this quite a bit. And as you know, Zell and I do the podcast together. And I know we're going to be talking about this kind of more in the future, but Star Citizen was so solid in 316, and it seemed like with Invictus maybe they launched it a little prematurely. I think the Invictus timeline got here, but the 317 code base wasn't really ready, and it just kind of got into a little bit of a funk, There was a lot of kind of money exploits and that type of thing that came with 317. There was a lot of elevators and things not necessarily behaving the way that they should, and 317.1 didn't actually do a whole lot to stem the tide, and 317.2 also was kind of late. There was a lot of bug fixes, but not nearly enough, and so the 317 patches, major versions, have not been as stable as the 316, 315, but really that 316, 316.1 was, I think there was like a 4 or 5 weeks there that maybe I had 130K. So no big deal. I just, it's kind of stating, I think there's a kind of a malaise a little bit in Star Citizen right now, amongst its, even its most ardent fans, and I definitely am that. So anyways, you know, here we hit the air and halo, and one of the things that people have been mentioning in the air and halo is you do get quite a bit of unscannable rocks, and that is true. But in order to take full advantage of you know, of this opportunity, you do want to kind of use the scanning mechanics the way that they are. So we kind of set our velocity meter a little bit, you know, close to halfway, where you know, you go about a couple hundred, 250, 300 or so. Pull out the mining laser, and you're going to be rotating your scan angle. Notice here, I'm going to pull my scan angle back to 179 degrees. I'm going to fire out a ping. And that's going to get me my opportunity markers, and then I'm going to close it down to 2 degrees. And when I do that, in many of these cases, it's going to give me a scan result on the right-hand side of the UI. There's a scan result there. There's a scan result there. You know, so, and sometimes you're going to scan them, and they're not going to give you a scan result. And when they don't give you a scan result, what I want you to do is not approach them, because they're going to more than likely be unscannable rocks. So, you know, there I scanned that, hit that one, did not get a scan result. Hit that one, did not get a scan result. You want to kind of rinse and repeat. So I get back on my quantum marker. I roll it back to the 179 degree angle after I kind of get out of, I kind of scoot past this rock here that was off to my starboard side. 179, there you go. I ping out. There's my opportunity markers. Collapse the scan angle down to 2 degrees. You can see that there was a couple there, but none of them kind of given me a scan result. There's some scan results there. And I'm just kind of working the rocks that are given to me. Every single opportunity marker, I do kind of hit with a ping or two. You want to kind of give them a ping or two. But if they do not give you any kind of scan results, you're just not going to want to approach them. So once again, rinse and repeat. And this is kind of where we've been. Now, 317.2 in particular has been a little stingy when it comes to opportunity, not so much the opportunity markers, but the actual scan results. There have been lots of unscannable rocks, a vast quantity of them, and it's been unfortunate, you know. So whenever you do find, you know, a Q cluster, and that's what you're looking for here. You know, when you're scanning, you're going to find some M clusters, you're going to see some different types of clusters, but really what you're looking for are a Q cluster. The Q cluster is going, our Q, you know, is in quantanium. That's what you're looking for here. So, you know, once again, we're just kind of, we're doing our thing here. We have our scan angle down to 2 degrees. We're hitting our opportunity markers. We're sending out another ping. There are times on the right-hand side where your scan results are the different types, P types, M types, that type of thing. But we're looking for Q, you know, as in quail or quantanium types. And so we're cruising around here. It does take a little while. I mean, this is one of the things that's been a bit of a slowdown. You know, we've noticed a bit of a slowdown. Plenty of opportunity markers, as you can see, as we kind of rinse and repeat. But we definitely, you can see we're scanning lots of rocks and not getting any scan results back. And that's pretty common. I mean, more common than it used to be, and unfortunately more common than we'd really like it to be, I think, in the most respectful sense. That being said, I love mining in Star Citizen, as everybody knows, and I will head out here and do it anytime I can, just to make a few space bucks. I'm actually saving for a C2 right now. It's a ship that I don't own in real life, but I think I would like to do some trading a little bit, so I've been just kind of saving for a C2. I have a little over 4 million. I have not played Star Citizen very much at all this summer. And like I said, that had to do with kind of some family obligations. So there we go. We're kind of looking around there, looking at the different scan types. And then, you know, we have pretty good opportunity markers. And we're just, you know, you kind of sometimes can get into a pretty decent run where you get 2 or 3 of them to give you the scan results in a row. But that's not always the case. I mean, there are many times when you kind of just want to rinse and repeat. Sometimes it's not bad to prioritize the opportunity markers that are a ways off, or at least try and prioritize the ones you absolutely know you haven't scanned before. So, you know, we're going to, you know, as you can see, we're hitting about, I don't know, about the 10-minute mark, heading into the 10-minute mark of the video. And that's all we have into it so far. By the time we kind of got the ship ready, left Arc L1, quantum, you know, used the quantum drives to get out this way. We've been out here for a little while already, just rolling past the 10-minute mark now. And we're about a third of the way through the video, just a TLDR. You know, and so this is what you do. You kind of rinse and repeat. You kind of keep your and you can see this. There are occasions where you do kind of get the types that you're looking for. And when you do find a good Q type, what you want to do is change to a 90-degree scan and just keep pinging as you approach to the right or left of center. Because it's as you approach, you definitely don't want to run into or ram the rocks at all. So, you know, I did find a Q type here, and as you can see, I am kind of approaching it. And so, you know, this is one of those things where you kind of want to head on in and take a look at the rock and see if it's going to have enough quantanium in it that it would be worth for you, you know, for you to mine. So, kind of coming in here, taking a look at this guy, and then you want to get it within 275 meters to get a scan result. Sometimes you got to kind of hit it with the laser. And it just so happens that this is not a bad rock. I mean, it's not a great rock, but it's not a bad rock. You know, it's certainly not going to be a unicorn or 32 SCU, but it's not going to be bad either. So you can see I kind of abuse the dark part of the, of the rock. Is, you know, as you can imagine, the sun hits it on the one side, the dark's on the other side. I kind of tuck the UI into the darkness where there's a little more contrast, and I begin mining. Now, this isn't going to take a real long time to mine, but it is one of those things. So you do want to get into a good optimal range. If you hit G a couple of times on the keyboard here, you're going to loosen up the laser head in a gimbal, and you're going to be able to roll that around a little bit without necessarily changing the angle of your ship, which is helpful. You can see the optimal charge window is, the charge level is at about 50% here and climbing. And it's going to take probably another minute or two to get the break in. You know, ultimately, if you kind of get in within about, I don't know, 8 to 12 meters away, it's going to be a little bit more efficient. It's, you know, and depending on the size of the rock, you're never going to run into a rock for whatever reason larger than a 5122 mass in space. That's kind of an arbitrary number. Not exactly sure where that comes from, but it is something that we see a lot. And if you close the gap and get within, like I said, you know, 8, 10, 12 meters, it will actually go much quicker to get it up into the green, into the optimal range. You can see we're at about 90% in climbing. And you know, with a couple of brands on board on an FLTR XL, I'm feeling like, you know, kind of got the world by the tail here. So eventually you're going to see the charge level get up into the green. That's what you're looking to do now. I can just broke into the green. You can see that it's beginning to run through the green. I think it does. I can't recall. I did this yesterday. I think it does fall out for a second here. I just can't recall off the top of my head. But anyways, yeah, we're continuing the process here. You're feathering the power back and forth. You're keeping the optimal window. You're keeping the charge level inside the optimal window long enough for it to then break, which is, you know, I did break here. I was a little close, and you could see it actually did mention a little bit of damage on my shields. No big deal there. The nice thing is I take a look here, and you know, as I'm pivoting around, I'm looking for the different rocks. If you've got really like a little bit of red and a big thick green slice, you know, that's not going to have much in it. However, if you have, you know, a little bit of, you know, or a lot of red and like a very thin green area, you know, that's going to have quantanium in it. So, you know, you can kind of tell fairly quickly what has quantanium in it and what doesn't. You can see that's going to have quite a bit of quantanium in it. You know, fairly good percentage. So you end up having, in this particular case, I had to break down 3 rocks. Now, range isn't nearly as important in this particular case because they already are at a very small size, and it's not going to be terribly difficult. Now, I will abuse Brants here on these secondary breaks. The first break, you know, obviously the instability is spread out over the mass, so it's fairly easy. You know, but these particular rocks, I'll just fire a Brant and won't even think twice about it. The Brants are too inexpensive. They bring down the instability significantly. So you have the Lancet, which brings down the instability to 75%. Then you have the Brand, which brings it down 75%. So you sit there and you start with a 100% Quantanium with a 2.5 instability. It starts out as a 10 when it's reduced 75% by the Lancet. It's a 2.5, and then another 75% on top of that, which brings it down to like a 0.61 or around that area. And you are really in good shape. So, you're obviously what you're looking to do here is break up all of the rocks that can contain Quantanium. There's a bit of a method to this. Now, I don't necessarily follow it perfect here. You really want to break down the lowest to highest percentages first. So if for some reason you had like a 100%er, a 89%er, and a 40%er, break down the 40%er first, break down the 89%er second, break down the 100%er last, and then actually scoop in the reverse order. Begin you're doing your extraction on the 100%er, and then the 89%er, and then the lower percentage rock. So that's kind of the gig here. You can see I'm actually kind of just abusing the heck out of the brands. I have no problem doing that. The consumables that's what they're there for. I've never, you just don't lose that much money. I mean, a 5 charge brand is like $2,700 or something like that. It's worth every penny. It makes it much easier, much more controllable. It's not a requirement, but especially when I'm streaming, I tend to find, if I kind of divert my eyes for too long, I can get myself in a jam, and the brands kind of keep things fairly even keel. So as you can see, we're going through and we're breaking down all these rocks. And there was just 3 of them to break down, so it wasn't terrible in this particular case. It didn't break super clean, but it didn't break terrible. And it's not going to take long. You see, with all that red and a little bit of green there for this guy to go. So, if you happen to get up into the overcharge, don't panic. The first thing you can do is turn off the laser. If you've just snuck up into the overcharge and you don't feel like you're significantly overcharged with the laser intensity, you can just kind of like wheel back a little bit and see if it will fall out and decay out, which is exactly what it did here. But if you think that you're in any way, shape, or form going to get yourself in a jam, like blown up or whatever, just turn off the laser and back away. That's my best recommendation there. Judgment is the better part of valor, and that's what you're going to want to do. So as you can see here, we're getting the brakes in. At whatever moment I switch to, I think I've switched to extraction mode. There's a hundo right off the bat, and we're off to the races here. So we're beginning to go to scoop up all of the Quantanium that was here. And the nice thing is I have noticed, and there are some pluses to things. When you do complete a scan, the game does seem to do a good job at remembering what those values are. I know that's kind of been hit or miss. There are times when you kind of scan all the rocks and you get a basic sense, but then you have to scan them all again. I would say that's one thing I have liked, is that those numbers have remained fairly persistent. And so yeah, just kind of extracting here. And that's what we're going to want to do, is go ahead and extract everything that you see here. So what you're trying to do is you are trying to extract the highest percentages first. You definitely want to make sure that you're getting all of the high percentage value rocks with the least amount of bad material in them that you possibly can. In this case, all the way up to this point, I still have only Quantanium on board. I haven't taken anything less than Quantanium. Now that's going to end here at some point, because this wasn't a clean enough rock. There wasn't a pure 32 SCU of Quantanium on board, but it was still an excellent find, and going to end up still being a couple $100,000 by the time you refine it and haul it in. So extraction laser's going. One of the things that you do is you kind of get down to the last few rocks as you try and prioritize highest percentage of Quantanium. That's really what you want to do. Anytime, like if your last 10 rocks are, there's a 10, there's a 20, there's a 30, there's a 40, there's a 50, do the 50 first, extract that, then the 40, then the 30, then the, that's the thing. You want to get as much Quantanium on board as you can, without running out of space, if there's any way to avoid it. And sometimes it'll blow you away, and it will be like absolutely tons and tons and tons of of mineable rocks and and good clean breaks, and sometimes it's just the opposite. That's just the way it goes. So anyways, as you can see, I am cleaning up here, double checking to see if anything else got a little bit of quantanium in it, and that's what we're doing. So we're just kind of crossing the 20-minute mark now. So in 20 minutes, I've logged on. I have flown out to the Iron Halo. I've located a rock, and I am almost done, kind of doing the extraction part of it. So kind of pulling in the last bit of what we can. We are going to run out of space. You will get a cargo full in some capacities, and then off you go. So you can tell I double checked to make sure that I had the proper base selected is where I'm kind of spooling up. That's ARC L1. I'm going to head back to the refinery, and we're going to go ahead and fly this stuff in and land it and take it down to the refinery. So off we go. Really basic run here. We're just hitting the 21-minute mark, and we're already on our way back with a couple 100,000 SCU on board. Maybe just short of that, but not much short of that. And so that's how quick it can happen. Even in today's Star Citizen, when that just doesn't seem to have. I think some of the servers just aren't as behaving as nicely as I think we'd like. And that may be that they're doing some back-end technical changes, maybe in preparation for the persistent entity streaming, something along those lines. Did notice today, by the way, that the Corsair is going to sneak out in 3.18. I think that's kind of cool. Star Citizen's always good at the very least of definitely selling some cool ships. The Corsair is going to be no exception in that regard. I still am wondering, as we kind of are eating up a little bit of quantum time, I still am scared about the cargo refactor. We haven't heard much about the cargo refactor in quite a long time. So I definitely have my concerns about the cargo refactor in 3.18. But, we're just kind of cruising around at 3.17. We know that the wipe's coming sometime in the next few months. You know what I mean? So it might have lasted a little longer than I thought it was going to last, which is good. But, still not a terribly long time. So my suggestion, and my suggestion has been and continues to be, make sure you really, really want the ships that, don't just sit there and pound it and grind. I mean, everything's going to get taken away again. Now, that being said, I do like having a Constellation Tourist. I think that's an excellent pairing with my Prospector to haul Quantanium. It's a gunboat with the 174 SCU cargo capability. But I also do like an M2 or a C2. In this case, I'm going to go with a C2. I am saving for the C2 just because I'd like to have the option to do some cargo trading. And believe it or not, the difference between an M2 and a C2 is basically a Constellation Tourist worth of cargo. I know it doesn't seem like that, but it really is an enormous extra amount. So in this particular case, like I said, saving for the C2 and excited. You can see I've come out of first quantum here, and I am preparing to respool and get into second quantum and head over there towards the force station. Now, I have been kind of hitting this snag, and people do tell me, like, look away or try other things, but I don't really have that great a success doing that, so I just usually turn off the engines, look away from the opportunity marker, turn the engines back on, look towards the opportunity marker, and that normally gets out of the jam when it comes to not necessarily respecting the quantum. You can see I just kind of rolled over here just to make sure that I'm in at a good approach angle, and we're just kind of heading on in, goosing it up a bit. We're going to come in at a reasonable clip. It's one of my favorite things to kind of talk about. You don't want to be out of control, and certainly I've done that and ended up crashing into the station. Drac, I'm thinking about you. But not always. Of course, most of the time we kind of bring it in smooth. So we are approaching the refinery at this point, and we're about to hit the 25-minute mark. We're just over 24, really. So, once again, we've, a couple 100,000 AUEC. You can log on, just do yourself a favor, spend a little about 20-25 minutes, and you usually can get kind of lucky. So we are approaching ARC L1 Wide Forest Station now, And I'm coming in at, not a crazy clip, but, probably 250, 300, bringing it in that way. As soon as you get the landing, the call for landing, I will go ahead and do that. There you can see I've got the please contact for landing. I send out for the landing, and I also take that time to rotate my VTOLs and drop my gear. It's an important thing to do nowadays when you have the hangars. And then you kind of get your approach your approach marker, and in this particular case, don't want to waste the time, just kind of cruise on in. Not a crazy, I'm not crazy or out of control, but I'm still moving at a pretty good rate. Just because it's a nice thing to do to kind of cruise on in and get your things taken care of. I am on the Quantanium timer. But first alarm still hasn't gone off, so we're in pretty good shape here. And so here we are on approach. You can see that the hangars opened. That's there are some cool things about 317.2 and having to use the hangars instead of having kind of open, open landing pads or whatever. Doesn't bother me at all. I really do like having the hangars. I think it's great. And you can see that I'm just kind of cruising on in here. Sun's at my back, lining up. Prospector's just kind of coming on in here. Very easy cruise. We are at about 26 minutes and 20 seconds, and we are almost touching back down. So, this whole trip, by the time I get down to the refinery and that type of thing, is going to end up being around 30 minutes. And that's a pretty common amount of time for it to take. This is such a traditional Quantanium mining run. It is, it's very, very, very straightforward, and these are what I like to do. This is kind of cathartic for me, entertaining, and so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So we're going to head on in, and we are going to store the ship. That's the next thing we want to do. Never a bad idea to go ahead and, once the hangar doors are closed, to kill the engines, turn off the ship power. That can sometimes help with respawns and the bouncing prospectors that we're seeing with 317.2. It's never bounced in a way where I couldn't get into it, but they certainly do get kind of funky there sometimes when you bring them into a hangar. Easy peasy into the elevator. Elevators are much faster now. That's one thing that's good, and I haven't been killed by an elevator in a little while, so that's okay. I can appreciate that. I sure was buying the farm a few times there, so no big deal. In we go. We're going to store the Prospector. That's in effect going to stop the timer on the Quantanium, and we'll be okay. I think right before we disembarked from the Prospector, we did hear first alarm, but you know what? We got plenty of time here. We got it stored, and once it's stored, it's going to freeze that timer, and you're going to be all set to head down to the refinery, which is exactly what we're going to do. So pop the old elevator. We're going to head down to the refinery. When we get down to the refinery, there are several different methods to use. I'm going to use the Dynic solvanation. That's the slowest time to process, but also you get the most yield, and it's the least amount of cost. So I'm not in a big hurry here. If I have to wait an extra day or two to haul in my Quantanium, I'm okay with it. You have to be careful around patch times. You can lose that stuff, and many have. But it's something that you kind of learn to kind of micromanage and understand as time goes by. So up the stairs we go. We're heading directly into the refinery. There is the refinement processing terminals, and here is the login. So we're logging in. We're going to go ahead and choose to begin here. We're going to hit the drop down, and we are going to choose our MISC Prospector. We're going to set up a work order. We're going to go ahead and enable the Quantanium to be processed. I'm going to choose the Dynic solvanation, confirm, and off we go. You can see here that between these two runs, I only did one on camera, but between these two runs, 50 SEU in a little under an hour. So nothing to complain about here. So anyways, once again, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I've truly appreciated all of the support the channel's gotten and received, and you guys are great. I do hope to be doing some more streams in the near future. Love you all. Sorry I've been gone, but happy to be back. So take care of yourself. I will see you all around the verse.